And welcome back. Now that Qmailtoaster is done compiling and it's installed, we're going to go ahead and we're going to rebuild ISO Qlogtoaster for our system. ISO Qlogtoaster gives us some more web stats for general statistics on our email server. And at this point, I'd say we're pretty much about 3/4 done getting our mail server up and running and installed. There's only a few more packages to take care of, and we'll have our system completely and totally compiled and installed. And that's now built and installed. Next, we're going to install Qmailtoaster, which this package may be removed from the installation scripts in the near future. We'll go ahead and we'll get it installing. Qadmin is a web-based interface where you can add and delete domains, users, and things of that nature. Unfortunately, Enter 7, the company that wrote it, stopped supporting it a couple years ago, and it has a couple bugs that cause some major issues that we see on the mailing list all the time. And we're probably going to remove this from the automatic install scripts like the one we're running now, so that you'll actually have to go out of your way to install it. Next is going to be Qmailtoaster. Qmailtoaster provides us a web-based interface to access our email. That way, if you don't have a mail user agent such as Outlook, Outlook Express, Thunderbird, or iMail, or you don't want to use one, you can just go to a web page and log in with your email address and your password and still get to your emails. You can see that it added a directive to Apache. And what this does is this allows any domain that is hosted on your server to have a /webmail directory. And when anybody goes to example.com/webmail, it'll automatically put them into the Qmail interface so that they can log in and access their emails. The next package we're going to install is going to be Spam Assassin Toaster. Now, if you're not familiar with Spam Assassin, what Spam Assassin does is it takes an email when you pipe it into it and looks at the email for various criteria. It looks at the email headers, it looks at who the message is from, who it's to, who the reply to address, what server it actually came from, as well as the message content, looking for things like web links, keywords, and things of that nature. And what it does is, depending on the criteria, it'll assign either a negative or positive score. Once the email has been completely and totally scanned, it takes all those little negatives and positive scores that it assigned for the message and adds them all together and gives the message a total score. Depending on that total score, we can determine if a message is actually spam or if it's something we actually want delivered to our email box. Now that that's installed, we're going to rebuild the Qmailtoaster. Qmailtoaster is Qlam Antivirus, an open source project that provides a virus scanner for Linux systems. What this will allow us to do is take incoming email messages and scan them for viruses before passing them on to our users. While this is mainly geared toward catching Windows-based viruses, it does have some additional functionality you can add into the system. If you look at another package that I put together a couple years ago called Qmailtoaster Plus, we have some additional Qlam antivirus definitions that will look for things like images in messages, and certain images we know are spam, and they get added to the Qlam antivirus database, and that way when the message comes through and it has an image spam in it, it'll get flagged as a virus/spam and not get delivered to our user. The end result is still the same, the message is not getting delivered, even though it is being flagged as technically a virus instead of a spam message. It's also going to install another application called FreshQlam. What FreshQlam does is periodically it'll go and query to see if it is running the latest virus definitions or not. If it's not, it'll go ahead and it'll download the latest virus definitions and then start using them. Since viruses do change quite a bit and they evolve, Clam Antivirus also changes and evolves. You'll see that you'll get new virus definitions a couple times a day for the most part, and you'll also find that it's going to be the most updated package on the Qmailtoaster website. Clam Antivirus does get a new package update a couple times a year just to get around exploits or attacks that spammers will use on Clam Antivirus to try and get their messages around any hindrances you may have in your email system and delivered to email boxes. Their whole goal is to get the message into the user's email box. For every 1 million emails they send, they hope to get at least 1 to 10 actually delivered into a user's email box. Then they hope that one of those will actually click on one of their links or buy one of their spam products. That actually makes it worthwhile for them and profitable. By installing things like the additional Clam Antivirus rules, while you are adding an impact onto your system and additional scan time for emails coming in, you're hopefully getting some of those messages cleaned out of your system as well. Also included in the Qmailtoaster Plus package I'll mention is going to be SA Update, which will set up a cron daemon for you to update the Spam Assassin rules. Those rules don't change very often, but when they do, it's nice to know that you have a cron job running that will get the latest and greatest rules for you and install them on your system. You can write your own Spam Assassin rules if you would like. I used to do that quite a bit in the past, but we've pretty much found that if you install SA Update and the additional Clam virus definitions, those pretty much catch just about everything coming into your system. There are a few other things you can do, you can read about on the wiki as well, to hopefully get the most amount of spam out of your system. The Spam Dike application is also a great utility that creates kind of like a proxy in front of your Qmail system, and it'll check for things like reverse DNS and so on and so forth to help stop spam mail servers from even sending messages into your system and having to have Spam Assassin and Clam Antivirus even go through the whole process of scanning them or removing them. Clam AV is rebuilt and installed on our system now. Now the next package we need to install is called Qmailtoaster. What Qmailtoaster does is it allows the scanning daemon to rip the MIME out of an email so that it can be scanned by Clam Antivirus. Most people don't know when you send an email is actually just a text file. Even when you include a binary attachment, that attachment gets translated into a MIME type that's appended to the end of the message. What RipMIME does is it allows the scanner to rip the MIME from the rest of the message, change it back into a recognizable program, scan it for viruses, and then put it back in. And the absolute last package we need to install for our Qmailtoaster system is CentOS. CentOS is the soup that ties it all together. When a message comes in, Qmail does some checks on it to see if the user exists and some other checks. And then if all of that does match, it will accept the message, download it, then hand it off to CentOS. CentOS will then call the various applications such as Spam Assassin and Clam Antivirus to look at the message, scan it, and then determine whether or not to actually deliver it to the user. During the compile time here, we do set a ceiling of a score of 20 for spam messages. Any message that does score above 20 just gets deleted outright. Now that it's all done, it's going to ask you if you want to clean the /usr/source/redhat/rpms directory. I prefer to skip this one and save the binary packages. You're more than welcome to go ahead and clean them out if you're not worried about saving any kind of space at all. And we are all finished. Now you can type in Qmail CTL for Qmail control and Qmail CTL stat. And you can see that the files do not exist at this point. So we'll need to run qmailctl start. Now we run the qmailctl stat again. And you can see that our various daemons have come up and running. Authlib, clams up and running, IMAP4, SSL, POP3, SSL, the send daemon, SMTP daemon, spam daemon, submission daemon, and so on and so forth are all up and running. I'll highlight just a couple quick Qmail commands that will come in handy, such as the qmailstat command, which gives you the statistics on your machine. You can also run qmailctl queue, and this will let you know what messages are in the queue waiting to be delivered. Here you can see we have some anonymous messages coming from root@example.com. This is just our server sending us some messages, letting us know some diagnostic information. Setting up an anonymous and a root email address is something you will want to do in the near future to get these messages. You can also run qmailctl stop, and this will bring down your Qmail server. And you can verify this by running qmailctl stat. And you'll see that it shuts the server down. We'll bring our system back up by running qmailctl start, and then verify that it's back up and running by running qmailctl stat. Most of your configuration files for Qmail are going to be located in var qmail control. And here you can see the various control files that are pre-configured for you. There are some more. You can read about those on the wiki to define. You can also read about these files themselves on the wiki and what each and every last file is for and how to configure it. We want to check the me file just to make sure that it does match our fully qualified domain name. And we want to take a look at our SMT peak reading just to make sure that our fully qualified domain name is listed first in that message. And at this point you have a complete and total up and running Qmailtoaster server. Stay tuned for some of our other videos where we show you how to configure domains, users, and tweak the system a little bit to get some additional functionality and or speed out of it. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing you next week.